We all set? I'd like to call this meeting of the Town Council for September 9th, 2021 to order. If you would please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Maverick is going to lead us tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know. The flag's got to be moved. I didn't used to be that close. Yes, it looks good in the TV better. Okay. Announcements. That's not an announcement. Is this all my announcements? Okay. Upcoming town council meetings, Thursday, September 23rd, Thursday, October 14th, and Thursday, October 28th. They're all regular meetings here in the Matthew Thornton room. Paul, did you have any other announcements?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening.
Good evening.
Come join Merrimack this Saturday, September 11th, at Abbey Griffin Park at 8:30 in the morning as we are commemorating the 20th anniversary of September 11th attacks. The ceremony is expected to last between 30 and 45 minutes. Merrimack Parks and Recreation and the Lions Club of Merrimack have teamed up with the American Red Cross to host the Fall Community Blood Drive at Wasserman Park on Friday, September 24th, from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. The American Red Cross is facing a shortage that has led to an urgent need for blood donors of all types. If you'd like to donate, please visit Parks and Recreation Department's website for details and to register. The website is Merrimack Parks with an S, the word N, and A-N-D, rec, R-E-C.org. Once again, that's Merrimack Parks and Rec.org, or call 603-882-1046 for more details. Finally, the Merrimack Police Department is excited to announce that they began scheduling the Rape Aggression Defense, RAD, classes for the fall. This women's self-defense program has been missed, and we can't wait to see you all again. The class will be conducted with your safety in mind, as well as the safety of the instructors. We'll be following any safety protocols that are required at the time of the class. If you know any females 13 years or older who may be interested and feel comfortable in attending the classes, it will be for 4 nights, September 21st, 23rd, 28th, and 30th, from 6 to 9 p.m. at the O'Leary Center. Applications can be picked up from dispatch and must be returned by Friday, September 17th. The class consists of both classroom and physical activities. Any questions, please call 603-420-1811 or email Animal Control Officer Galino at hgulino@merrimacknh.gov or Officer Groves at agroves@merrimacknh.gov. Space is limited, and seats will be filled on a first-come, first-served basis. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the press and public. At this time, if there's anybody that would like to address the council on agenda items, please come up to the microphone. Seeing none. Recognitions, resignations, and retirements. We have none this evening, which brings us to appointments. Number 1 on the list is the annual review at the Heritage Commission, submitted by Heritage Commissioner co-chairs Ralph Guerins and co-chair Chip Pollard. Per Town of Merrimack Charter Section 6-6, at least annually there should be an annual review with the Heritage Commission. This agenda item is to highlight the Commission's significant actions, current projects, anticipated actions, and to raise any concerns the council should know or could act on. Chip, are you? Are you? You're it today, huh?
Well, Ralph is also here.
But
He's
he's,
here for support. Good evening.
Good evening.
Appreciate your time, so we can present the Heritage Commission 2021 presentation. The people of Merrimack voted to establish the Merrimack Heritage Commission to preserve the town's historic resources for future generations, and we continue to work diligently towards that goal. Going into 2021, Ralph Grentz and myself, Chip Pollard, have served as the commission co-chairs. Anita Krager has agreed to continue serving as a member, sharing her vast knowledge of the town history, her dedication and enthusiasm. 2021, the Heritage Commission, we have 3 full members and a town council representative. We're actively seeking 2 additional members and 3 alternates. Because of the constraints imposed by COVID-19 pandemic, and what we did was we have prioritized to give the 275th committee, we were only able to meet 2 times early on in this year. Both the committee and our meetings generally fell on Monday nights, and we felt the committee 275th was much more important this year. 3 of our members served on the 275th committee. The 275th committee has many parallel historic informational goals for our town, and we commend them for all they have done to share the importance of town history with the people of Merrimack. We're also hoping that the 275th activities will inspire people to join the Heritage Commission. So projects we were working on, even though we weren't able to meet as often as we wanted to, a lot was going on behind the scenes. 2021, and it's going to continue to 2022. We continue to support the 4 village brochures. We put out over 250 brochures about Reed's Ferry, Sauhegan Village, South Merrimack, Thornton's Ferry, that all form the town of Merrimack. They're very popular. They have a concise history of each village, and they're here in the town hall, the library, the Merrimack Historical Society, and online at the town's website. Anita on the side with sponsorship and support from the Historical Commission has been doing a lot of cleaning and repair of the Turkey Hill graveyard markers. So far, she's done over 200 gravestones and repaired a lot of them. Bob LaRue from the show Outdoors with Bob on the local Channel 23 is making a movie of the project. Also, research to identify the precise locations of 12 district schoolhouses and selecting a suitable and visible placement for signage. That's been an ongoing endeavor. We also want signage for the 4 villages and the 5 fire stations, including the currently active ones that are being conducted. Also, we're also assessing the Class 6 roads. They're public roads, but the town does not have an obligation to maintain the roads. Old Grader Road mainly is being serviced by the Conservation Commission. Old Blood Road, as you know, has become a neighborhood. And Old Kings Highway, we're still working on that. We've been doing a lot of markings along the Old Kings Highway, along with, like I said, we are planning on a design for the signs at the entrances to all of these places. We are also supporting Thornton's Ferry and the Schuyler Park site development. I'm just kind of rattling through a few things that are going on. We're also in cooperation with the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance initiatives for identifying stone walls, culverts, old barns, and champion trees. We are trying to crowdsource a lot of things in the Merrimack databases for stone walls and barns, etc. We want to coordinate with the town's IT department to help in this effort. Also, we're working with the Merrimack Historical Society to exploit social media to increase public knowledge and foster participation in Merrimack's rich historical heritage. Concerns we have. Concerns of the effect of Merrimack's rapid development on our historical heritage. Future losses of historical structures. And I think what we're going to focus on is the importance of working with the planning board. There have been a few old homes that have been repurposed. As you know, Reverend Wright's home, Merrimack I, Levi Lowell's, and we're just, there hasn't been any homes destroyed in the last 2 years, but we just want to be very involved to make sure we're aware of anything that may happen in the future. And that's pretty much it. We're hoping as the 275th celebration starts to conclude over the next month, that we're going to be kicking it back in gear and getting our whole team together and working up with a whole new agenda for next year too. But that's pretty much all I have for this year. If you have any questions.
That's awesome. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
We've all been busy, absolutely. But thank you very much.
Actually, I just wanted to say.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lon.
Not a question, but a comment.
Sure.
I've been involved with the commission at one time. The work that you guys continue to do is very important. It's not often in the day-to-day mind of the citizens, but it's there, and it's a very worthy endeavor. I hope to get back to you guys soon.
We're looking forward to seeing you, Lon.
And I actually was pretty much agreeing with Lon, the importance of the work and the work that you have been doing and all. And I appreciate you guys stepping up and taking over, because Anita was going to be big shoes to fill, because she just had so much knowledge up here. And I know there's been some working together in some fashion, I guess, with the Historical Society. And I think that is a good thing, though one's the towns and the others not so much, but they have a lot of good things happening, and I think that commitment is identical. There's that drive to save preserve the history and everything is really good. So I just wanted to make sure I thank you, because I know you've been very busy with your business, your new business, and I don't know how you do it. It's just a lot of things to carry, but I appreciate it, Chip.
It's all in the name of having a good time.
Yeah,
So we enjoy it, and like I said, the Historical Society and the Heritage Commission work very well together, so couldn't go without them. So
Excellent.
thank you for your help.
That's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. I failed to point out at the beginning of the meeting that Barbara Healy is with us over the phone. She wasn't feeling the best and felt it would be better to communicate via phone instead of physically communicating whatever's bugging her with the rest of us. So Barbara, thank you for being with us,
Where's that mute button?
or not. Are you still there, Barbara?
I am, thank you.
Okay. Just checking.
You can wave at least.
Yeah. Do we need to go through the whole, are you by yourself type stuff?
We should.
Barbara, are you, you are at your house right now, is that right?
Yes, I'm in my house in my home office, and I am alone.
Okay, and you can hear us and we can hear you, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any votes tonight will be done by roll call, which is the procedure when anyone is not present. Okay. And again, thank you to the Heritage Commission. We appreciate all your work and your activities, especially with 275th this year. It brings a little extra special thing to it all. Our second agenda item is the Matthew Thornton Grave Marker Wreath Lane Ceremony presentation submitted by the New Hampshire Society Sons of the American Revolution Committee, co-chair Robert Walsh. The town council to be presented with the details of the proposed upcoming grave marking and wreath laying ceremony for Matthew Thornton, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, scheduled to be held on Sunday, November 7th, 2021 at 1 p.m. Welcome.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. In anticipation of the upcoming 250th anniversary of the American Revolutionary War, we're not quite as old as the town of Merrimack. The New Hampshire Society of the Sons of the American Revolution and the Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution are going to have a grave marking at the Thornton Graveyard on November 7. We will have about 100 people there in colonial garb, including our state color guard, which will fire a musket salute. The event will be simple. It will be a processional, greetings from the organizations sponsoring our event, and we invite someone from the town council to come and bring greetings from the town if you see fit.
Okay.
There will be a wreath laying and the musket firing, and then a short recessional. It will be open to the public, and we will be publicizing the event to hope folks will come and learn a little about the history and the importance of this to the state and to the town. I'm open for any questions that you may have, and we look forward to cooperating with the town and pulling off a nice event.
Awesome, thank you. And you said 100 people as active participants in the Colonial
That would be
Guard?
my best estimate between the three different groups.
Do we have
yes.
room for that many folks plus public in that area?
We'll cram in, I think.
I think so.
COVID restrictions permitting, but
Yeah. Okay,
we will follow any guidelines the town sets up for COVID events.
all right. Paul, you had something you wanted to add?
That's a lot of cars at,
That's a lot of people
with
in a
no
in a
parking
very
over
small
there.
area.
Well,
I'm wondering, have you talked to the businesses in that area? The dentist office changed hands. That plaza right across changed hands.
Oh, did it?
I believe it did.
It was Dr. Baca.
Yeah, it might, I don't know if it, but have you reached out to them to maybe use their parking lot?
we have not. Our initial meeting here tonight was to open this up to suggestions and comments.
Because, I'm sure you're aware of that graveyard. It's,
Yes,
it's
we are.
right on DW Highway
Yes.
with maybe one or two spots, and
Right.
it's a Sunday.
It is a Sunday, which helps, yeah.
Which helps,
Insurance
but
company's probably closed,
The
which is
Brown and
right next
Brown
door.
might be another place, which is
Okay,
the insurance company.
Those places in back.
In the back, yeah. there's
yes.
offices.
There's offices down the hill in the back, but I just check with them. Met Construction's out that way too.
Common man.
But, what is it, 1 o'clock?
1
At
o'clock
1
on a
o'clock.
Sunday.
Yeah, so Common Man might be open for afternoon, so, definitely, because that, the extension's a dead end, but I don't think we could fit 100 cars on that road going, even if we looped them around, so just parking might be something that you're gonna have to think about.
I
and
appreciate
asking
that,
the
and we'll
company.
follow through with those
Yeah.
suggestions.
Yeah, at least
Yeah,
scope
the
it
bank,
out.
maybe at TD Bank and walking across, that's another one.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's just not the best intersection to try and walk across, but
No, but-
Sunday afternoon might be better, but,
Yeah.
and further down at, is it Thornton's Clinic or whatever the clinic is that's down there from the bank?
Yeah, yeah, the bank and then, the hair salon, in that area, that whole
Yeah.
plaza there.
Those different areas there.
Yeah.
There are spaces, but they're a little bit of a walk.
Okay,
Not bad.
no problem.
So,
But it sounds exciting. This is about a half an hour presentation or something?
That's our best estimate,
And
yes.
somebody's gonna give a
Keep it
historical
short.
talk, or?
We're discussing it, but our initial proposals would be to have a young female from the Children of the American Revolution talk about Hannah Jack,
Oh,
Matthew
okay.
Thornton's wife, and a young male from the Children of the American Revolution talk about Matthew Thornton.
Okay, that sounds good.
The kids add excitement to a program
Oh,
like this.
absolutely. That's very good. Any other thoughts or comments? Nancy?
The other comment I was gonna make is, and it's not the historical, some group has been doing graves there, cleaning graves in the Thornton's Ferry.
Well, I
Oh, it is the
I
Heritage.
thought I
Is
saw
it
a
you
bunch of
guys?
the Heritage folks out there today when I drove by.
Okay, I mean, you can see it from the street, that the stones are in really good shape, so I think coincidentally, you're going to see that it's been really well taken care of, at least recently. That a lot of work's been put in, and a lot of the graves, stones are clean, and a lot of them have been repaired too, I believe, right? So it's sort of a coincidence, historical.
That's great.
Probably not a coincidence.
Matthew
but
Thornton.
okay.
Well,
not
it's
the
a
only-
coincidence that this is going on, and you're going to see a cemetery that we are proud of because of what's been done.
It's a nice job. Thank you.
Lon?
Yeah, it may be unnecessary, but if the council is endorsing this, I'm certainly welcome you to your ceremony. it may be well that we alert the police department that we might need some presence down there for that time of day on that Sunday.
Make a note.
Noted.
It's been my experience in the several towns, if you call and ask to speak to the chief or police secretary, she knows how to run everything.
True.
Finley, did you want
No,
to?
I'm good. I'm actually just going to comment on the previous thing that they had done. Well, I don't remember who did it, but they had a celebration putting up the bronze plaque.
Black.
And it was just a nice event, and I didn't know if it was the same thing.
I hope to see some of you there. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, we'd like to be there. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I'll be there.
Oh, yeah.
So that's November 7th, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That brings us to our public hearing. Public hearing, consideration of changes to Chapter 92 of the Merrimack Town Code. We discussed this at our last meeting. Submitted by Town Council Chair Tom Koenig and Vice Chair Finley Rothaus. The Town Council will hold a public hearing to consider the acceptance of a recommended changes to the Chapter 92 amusement devices of the Merrimack Town Code pursuant to Charter Article 5. And that's in our packet. Hopefully people, if they're interested, have had a chance to take a look at it. It's really a very minor change. If I can summarize quickly, they're just changing the number of total amusement devices in an establishment from a maximum of 25 to a maximum of 30. This has the approval and acceptance of the police department. These are basically pinball machine type games. They're not gambling games and things of that nature. And one business in town has just asked if they could put a few more out instead of the ones, in addition to the ones that they have. And not seeing any reason not to. We're opened up to the town to see if anybody has any thoughts. So at this point, we'll open the public hearing at 7:23. If anybody wants to speak on it, please come up to the mic and introduce yourself. Seeing nobody, I'm going to say we're going to close the public hearing at 7:24 and see if the town council has any thoughts that they'd like to share at this point. Finley?
Just my same commentary when I saw this agenda item is that it's intriguing how, this originated probably 25 years ago, and how it was a real big thing back then, and I kind of see it as not a big deal anymore. And it's, I can't even remember what the angst was over pinball machines, except P rhymes with
Yeah, I
P's.
can't either.
That's for cool.
Originally effective in 1993,
Was it 93? Yeah, so.
a little over
I-
25 years, but.
Yeah, so I'm all good with the modification of increasing the number.
Is that a motion?
I'd like to move it to a third reading.
To a third reading?
Yep.
And second that?
On the consent agenda, yes.
So motion by Finley and seconded by Nancy
To move forward?
to move
with consent agenda?
this modification forward to the consent agenda at our next meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Gotta do
No.
roll call.
Sorry, roll call.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll go with a roll call vote. We'll start with Nancy Murphy
Yes.
and Tom Koenig, yes. Finley?
Yes.
Nancy Harrington?
Yes.
Barbara Healy?
Yes.
And Andy Hunter?
Yes.
And Lon Woods?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes 7-0-0 by roll call. Which brings us to legislative updates from state reps. And I see Maureen anticipating this one. So at this time, we always hold this spot open in our agenda for any of our state reps or state senator to update us on what's going on with the Capitol building.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. For the record, my name is Maureen Mooney. I reside on Handsome Drive, and I'm a state representative here in Merrimack. First, I want to thank you for reading all of my legislative reports that I submit in writing. I appreciate that, and I'm often able to catch it on TV, but tonight in person. So thank you for having me. 3 items tonight. You may be in receipt already of a letter dated September 1st, 2021 from the Department of Environmental Services to St. Gobain. Now, in this letter, I was pleased to see that they've given St. Gobain 30 days to come up with a plan for long-term operation and maintenance of wells 4 and 5. You may recall this is directly related to the subject matter of retained House Bill 478 that we filed almost 1 year ago, still retained, that those of you on the council at the time signed a letter of endorsement for. It was the purpose of that bill. So I'm very pleased to see movement on this, and I think we're all looking forward to seeing in 30 days what comes about this, since we were very concerned about it and thus submitted the bills and thus your letter of endorsement. So that's my first item.
Great.
Second item, filing period for the House is next week, just 1 week. Filing period for the Senate, in case you forget to file anything in the House side, is in October for 2 weeks. And then my third item is that the Merrimack Citizens for Clean Water and some state representatives and our state senator and 2 counselors met for a really good discussion and brainstorming session on possible legislation related to water for next year. It was very productive, and we'll see what comes of that, and certainly I'll keep you posted. So with that, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, that is my legislative update for today.
Great. Thank you very much, Maureen.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
all.
Does anybody have any questions for Maureen at this point?
I don't have
Nancy?
a question, but I have a comment.
Okay.
I'd just like to say thank Representative Mooney for all of her work on PFAS. She's certainly carrying a big load with some of those bills, and it's been I've really enjoyed working with her and other members of the House and Senate on these bills that are so important, and the one that she spoke of earlier that has been retained was a great one. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for being proactive and really looking at what we need so that legislation filed will be in Merrimack's best interest. So thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments.
Okay.
I enjoy it.
And we
Working with
very
you.
much appreciate your enthusiasm and your input, so please keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay. Slip back this way. That's not it. Where'd it go? There it is. Town Manager's Report.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. The Planning Board granted conditional approval for the development of the 50 Robert Milligan Parkway at their September 7th meeting. Nearly 325,000 square foot warehouse distribution facility is proposed for the parcel, which has been identified as an economic development priority parcel in 2013's Town Master Plan. No specific tenant or tenants have been identified at this point, but the site is being developed by a prominent Boston-based real estate development firm, Trammell and Crow. On Merrimack TV news, the Merrimack TV will be covering 10 regular season home games for Merrimack High School Tomahawks live on Channel 21 and streaming online. Select games from the varsity football, boys and girls soccer, volleyball teams will all be featured, and community volunteers have stepped up to provide play-by-play commentary. Please visit merrimacktv.com for details. Live away game coverage can be found at nhccm.org/network. Merrimack TV is a member of the station of the New Hampshire Coalition of Community Media. The Roundabout project update. Utility work is nearing completion, which allows our contractor to remobilize to the site to complete the work on the roundabout. In order to facilitate the work and expedite the construction, a detour will be placed between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. for the next couple of weeks. During other working hours, expect one-way alternating traffic. At night, there will be two-way traffic with lanes delineated by cones and barrels. The pavement is removed, so travel will be over gravel roads. Traffic could also be diverted on Turkey Hill Road instead of Babuzik Lake Road. Please continue to use caution through the work zone. I'd also like to remind people that the detour is through a neighborhood. through neighborhoods. So please slow down through those neighborhoods, trying to avoid the construction zone. If you could just slow down a little bit through those neighborhoods, and the neighbors would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Merrimack has been notified that our proposal for the 3,600 linear feet sidewalk project along Daniel Webster Highway ranked 8 out of 34 applications and has been recommended to receive funding through the Governor's Advisory Commission on Intermodal Transportation, GAC, GCIT, GACIT, in the 10-year plan. Final approval is anticipated June of 22. Funding for the project will start 22-23 and run through 2032, State of New Hampshire 10-year plan, and will be available starting October 2022. Our project is anticipated to cost $1,250,000, with $1 million coming from the federal grant. The project would add a sidewalk from the Chamberlain Bridge south towards the 360 Plaza on the west side of the road. The Highway Division is currently working on our Mill and Fill program. This program helps preserve the conditions of our roads by grinding up the most deteriorating portion of roads and paving with a new course of pavement to prevent potholes from forming during freeze-thaw cycles. This program works in conjunction with our paving program to continue to improve the overall condition of Merrimack public streets. Some of the streets included in this year's program include Eric, Joppa, Pilgrim, Everest, Back River Road, and Front Street. Wastewater Phase 3 update. The construction activities of the project are underway, including upgrading the sludge storage tanks and completing field verifications of the facility to facilitate ordering new equipment early to avoid schedule impacts due to supply issues. The final date for extended hours at the transfer station this year is September 30th. Just a reminder, both the transfer station and wastewater facilities will be closed to the public on Wednesday, September 22nd for employee training. One last note, last week I was at a meeting with Mayor Craig in Manchester, Bedford and Londonderry's town manager, and Congressman Pappas, and New Hampshire DOT to talk about the expansion of the rail. There's a program right now, it's a 5 to 15-year program to look to expand rail services with 2 stops in Nashua, 2 stops in Manchester, and 1 stop in Merrimack, Bedford area. So that's exciting news. We're looking at also, because of the airport, the location would probably be on the Bedford-Merrimack line. Something similar to, if anybody ever flew into BWI in Baltimore, where you have to get on the bus and they take you to the train station, something similar to that. Amtrak is excited about this project. This is all part of the infrastructure bill that is working its way through Congress right now. So it's a great opportunity to expand rail up to and through, up to Manchester, but through Merrimack. And from what I understand, it's actually, you're going to be able to go all the way down through Lowell to Boston. But there's some significant work. And for the people that are living on the line, it's not like the old coal freight train where you're clickety-clack, clickety-clack. These are high-speed trains that ride on the rail, and they're a lot quieter from what we were told at the meeting. So more to come. It was a kickoff meeting. We'll see where we go with this. But that's pretty exciting news that Amtrak is looking at expanding rail service, at least through Manchester. And I think, like I said, 1 stop will be pretty close to, if you're familiar with Manchester, the old Colonial Station right behind the ballpark. Delta Denta Stadium will be one of the stops, and then there'll be 1 other stop along the way in Manchester. And the 2 stops in Nashua, one will be kind of near the Pheasant Lane Mall. These aren't in stone, so these aren't finalized, but one would be near the Pheasant Lane Mall. And then I guess years ago there used to be a stop someplace near downtown Nashua, and they'll resurrect that stop as well. So.
Okay, any questions? Finley?
Just real quick, I had sent you a message just before the
Yeah,
meeting.
yes.
It was about the traffic that's going to be flowing through Woodland Park, and the person had asked that we maybe put a little signage, please go slow, whatever, and I don't know if that will work or not, but thanks for the focus on that.
No, but just got to be courteous
Yeah.
to the neighbors
Well, yeah,
in
absolutely.
that area. And those roads aren't like Babuza Lake Road or Turkey Hill where they're wide, they're neighborhood roads, so,
Yeah. Old neighborhood roads.
old
yeah.
neighborhood roads, yes.
Okay. That'll start getting us used to, when they start on DW Highway.
I just want to make
All
a
right.
quick
Yeah, we'll talk
comment and give my compliments to Dawn Twamala, who's doing her best communicating with the public about what's going on with what I call a rotary. Apparently it's not, it's a roundabout. But she really is keeping the community well abreast, and it doesn't make it any easier for people, but at least if it's communicated well. And there's also a change in the traffic pattern for the school next week. Madeline Bennett, that was also communicated, and I'm surprised she didn't mention it.
I didn't see that.
It's literally going down Madeline Bennett, but the lanes are marked differently.
Yes, that was started, actually today with school.
Right.
Those are the new lanes with the Chestnut Hill development.
Right.
The road now curves towards Chestnut Hill, and they put a bus waiting lane in there. The old oval that was up there is gone, and there's a new traffic pattern up at, going to the middle
I
school.
thought it was gonna be starting Monday, so I'm
No,
sorry.
it's
So
all
started
paved, it's
today.
already, yeah, it's all paved.
So, because I know that was also communicated
Right.
as well, so they're really doing their best to try to
Mhm.
Right.
keep the public abreast as much as possible. And I just want to note that and appreciate it.
And,
Even
and,
the wastewater treatment stuff, they've been posting about that as well.
good.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out kind of to the police department. They've been working very closely with DPW. The drone footage was actually, remember that grant that you allowed
Yeah.
police to get the drone? That drone footage was done by the police department to do that. And they're doing some other stuff with drones with the Turkey Hill Road in the future and things of that sort. So,
Any other comments, questions? No. Okay. We'll move on. That brings us to, I lost my papers because I had too many spread around. Under old business number 1, we don't have a consent agenda tonight. Next meeting. Old business number 1, appointment of trustee of the trust funds. As we talked about a couple of meetings ago, or at least a meeting ago, with the passing of Jack Balcom, we need to find a third person to join the trustee of the trust funds. We announced the opening. We announced a plan for how we were going to fill that position. We were going to advertise it, which we did, for several weeks. We asked for anybody that was interested to have let us know by the 16th of August. And we did get one applicant interested in the position, and so it's up to the council now to decide, do we want to fill the position with that person, or do we feel like we need to do something different? Right now, the applicant is Pat Heinrich for the trustee of the trust funds. She's been involved in town for many, many, many years, very heavily with the school district, but also with the library and things of that nature. So she's well-known by people in town. So I'm looking for the interest of the council. Nancy?
Actually, I absolutely have no hesitation, and I'm very thankful that she's interested in this position. I really do think it makes a difference that someone who is well-known in the town, is well-respected in the town, has this kind of position. So thank you for even applying, and I would be very happy to be able to nominate her for appointment as the trustee of trust funds to fill the position unfortunately made vacant by the passing of Jack Balcom. A term until April 2023 election.
Okay, is there a second for that?
Second.
Seconded by Lon. Does anybody want to speak to that or speak to the issue?
I'll second what Nancy said. I've known Pat from the little bit of time I spent on the school budget committee, extremely helpful, great person. I haven't had the opportunity to invest any funds and discuss those with Pat, but working with her as a person, I couldn't think of a better person to elect or to appoint for this position.
Okay, thank you.
I agree. I'll keep it simple.
Okay. So we'll call for a vote on we'll call for a roll call vote on nominating Pat Heinrich to fill in the position vacated by Jack Balcom. We'll start again with Nancy Murphy.
Yes.
Tom Koenig, yes. Finley?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
And Lon?
Would, Jay?
Okay, so that passes 7-0-0 to nominate Patricia Heinrich as a trustee of the trust funds to fill John Jack Balcom's term until April of 2023. Pat, can you join me up here and we'll sign you in, and swear you in, or whatever?
It's nice to have somebody to swear at somebody instead of swearing at me.
Okay, thank you very much. So, is this, oh, yeah, so there's what you're gonna read. And you can sign it too. You can go ahead and read that as just one statement for us here.
I, Patricia Heinrich, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all the duties incumbent on me as a trustee of the trust fund, according to the best of my abilities, agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution and the laws of the state of New Hampshire. So help me God.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I do. I need to get you to sign. This acknowledgement of the code of conduct.
You have to behave yourself now. No fooling around. Bobby can probably hear us talking. Don't talk about Barbara. We will. Oh, I don't know. I think so. It's in September 11th.
Yeah, it's in the sign.
He's got to go.
Pat, the next meeting is September 17th at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Tom? Yes, we've been meeting here, yes, in this room.
Nine. So that needs to get signed. Okay, thank you, Pat. We really appreciate your stepping up. This is a little bit of an unusual appointment because quite often the committee appointments are made for 1 year until the next election. This one actually in the charter describes that you'll fill out the term, which is 2 more years. But that sounds good. So our next agenda item is the 20th anniversary of September proclamation. Who put this together? That should be fairly quick. Submitted by the Parks and Recs Director Matthew Kasparius, the Town Council to consider a proclamation commemorating the 20th anniversary of the September 11th attacks to be read at the ceremony on Saturday, September 11th. Paul, do you want to introduce it or say anything?
As we all know, history in America changed on September 11th. We're honoring the victims of the September 11th tragedy, as well as the first responders who perished trying to save the lives of as many Americans and citizens as possible. Matt put together a proclamation for the town council to read tonight. It's in your sign file. And we'll be having a little bit of a ceremony to honor in a moment of silence when the first plane struck the first World Trade Center. So like I said, everybody remembers where they were on September 11th, 2001, for that day. So it forever changed the way we in America look at things.
So the proclamation that's been offered for us to endorse and display and to read at the ceremony is to the Town of Merrimack, New Hampshire proclamation, September 11, 2001, a day to remember. Whereas the unprovoked attacks of September 11, 2001 upon America by foreign terrorists have thrust the United States and other countries into a war it never envisioned, militarily or diplomatically, and whereas the challenges facing all the civilized people of the world as they relate to the war on terrorism will not end until those fanatics responsible are eliminated or brought to justice, and whereas America is fully committed to ensure that our freedom remains unfettered and sovereign for all generations, now and forever, and whereas world opinion needs to remain focused upon the eradication of these inhuman acts perpetrated around the globe, and whereas one way to accomplish this is to never forget that those innocent victims did not die in vain, and whereas America can fight back by reminding the world that the deaths of these people will always be remembered and they will be forever loved, and whereas a noble and appropriate way to accomplish this is through the annual commemoration, and whereas this commemoration should be held each September 11th throughout the land to include the promotion of global peace and goodwill, the demonstration of America's resolve and perseverance to win the war on terrorism, the advancement of responsible citizenship, the encouragement of patriotism and love of country, and the poignant remembrance of those innocent victims who died on September 11th, 2001, as heroes one and all. Now, therefore, be it resolved, as the Town Council of Merrimack, New Hampshire, we are issuing this proclamation to memorialize those men, women, and children who lost their lives, and be it further resolved that this proclamation be publicized for all to see, and know that the citizens of Merrimack remember with eternal respect those whose lives were suddenly, without cause, pointlessly taken from them on September 11th, 2001. May they forever rest in peace and abide in our memories. Dated this 11th day of September 2021, Merrimack Town Council. So we're looking for a motion to authorize or proclaim this proclamation. Moved by Finley, seconded by Nancy? Seconded by Nancy Murphy. Is there any discussion or thoughts on the situation anybody wants to share at this point? Seeing none, we'll call for a roll call vote. Starting with Lon Woods.
Woods, yay.
Andy Hunter.
Yes.
Barbara Healy.
Yes.
Nancy Harrington.
Yes.
Finley Rothaus.
Yes.
Tom Koenig, yes. Nancy Murphy.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0-0. So we don't have the agenda for the meeting, the event on Saturday sitting in front of me. Do you happen to have that with you, or?
Not at this time,
Okay.
but
Starts at 8:30
starts at 8:30.
at Abbey Griffin Park.
Right. I'll get it out to everybody by tomorrow. I don't have it. Probably a few words from Town Council Chair, reading of the proclamation, the honor guard, presenting the colors, and then a moment of silence at the time.
At 8:49, I think they were saying, or 8:46, something
Yeah,
like that, when
when-
the first plane hit.
First plane hit.
I wonder where that went. Yeah, there's going to be a short presentation by the chief of police. I don't know if somebody from fire maybe, and then a couple other little things that go along with it.
Not the VFW. The Legion is doing something at 6 p.m. At the American Legion.
Did you find it?
No, I didn't.
All right, I'll get it. Yeah. I
It's on our website, the front of our website.
The ceremony, the agenda is
Yeah, I think so.
Pledge of Allegiance, National Anthem, sung by Melissa Moran, an invocation, comments by myself, the chief. Flag will be lowered at 8:46, followed by a moment of silence. A presentation of Going Home will be performed by Fire Lieutenant Chris Wyman. Placing of the wreath and remarks by Commander Paul Roy from the VFW, and a reading of names of the New Hampshire victims by Dick Peterson, the commander of the American Legion. And then the town council proclamation, and a poem will be read by, called Attack on America by Loretta Jackson, song Amazing Grace, a benediction, and then a retiring of the colors. So I would urge anybody that can to come. I think it'd be a great ceremony, and we would appreciate everybody's attendance. There's an opportunity for me as town council chair to make some comments. There's also a request to have somebody from the council read our proclamation. Does anybody want to do that?
No, I'm not gonna be in the area.
You're out of town.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to do it. I'll be there,
Okay.
unless someone was.
I was thinking maybe you or Barbara, but I don't know how Barbara's gonna
Barbara?
feel.
Barbara? Hello,
Hello? Yeah.
would you want to say the names? You are a veteran.
Read the declaration,
understand
read the
that, but-
proclamation, yeah.
Read the proclamation.
Yeah, I think I'm going to bow out for this one.
Okay,
Okay, I'm just saying that I thought she should get the honor because she's a veteran.
And I appreciate that, Nancy. Thank you so much.
Okay.
okay.
But
So,
I don't want to leave you in the lurch in case I can't make it on Saturday morning.
I understand. Okay, well,
Okay.
can we leave it like this? If you're okay, you'll do it?
Okay.
Okay. And if you're not, I'm going to be there anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
so one of you will do it.
One of us will do it.
Okay. Awesome. Sound good?
Good.
Okay. And we appreciate Matt and the 275th committee and people that have been working on this to make sure we have a good celebration this year. Okay. That brings us to, finally, new business. And first up is an Eagle Scout Service Project presentation submitted by Life Scout Maverick Landry. The town council will be presented with the Life Scout Maverick Landry's proposed Eagle Scout Service Project to replace the current American flag disposal receptacles with new patriotically decorated boxes for the American Legion, the VFW, and the Merrimack Transfer Station. So, welcome Maverick, and we look forward to hearing what you got to say
Thank you.
or present.
So tonight I'd like your approval and signature to begin on my project. My current plan is to replace the current trash bins that are labeled for U.S. flag disposal with a patriotically decorated box that'll be about 3 feet high, replacing the exact spot of the former bins. I'll be placing 2 at the transfer station, preferably 1 on each side of where they are currently. And then I will be giving 1 to the VFW and 1 to the American Legion as well. If you have any questions.
So can you describe these? You didn't bring a
Yeah.
picture or anything, so
Yes, so
what
they're
makes
going
it
to
better
be-
than what we have?
They're going to be a square base box, and they're going to have a slanted ceiling. It's going to open up. There's going to be a bin on the inside, which can be taken out so that they can empty the flags. You will place the flags inside, and then you can close the bin. It'll be labeled on the front for U.S. flag disposal.
Okay. Can you help us understand, for those that aren't civic-minded enough to know it already,
Yes.
what's the point, or why are we doing this?
Yes. The American flag is not supposed to be just thrown away or disrespected in any way while it is retired. A flag that has seen too much use and is worn or ripping or torn at all, it should be immediately taken down and disposed of properly. The VFW and American Legion currently have a system of collecting and retiring the flags over the course of the year. I will be joining them for the Veterans Day flag disposal with all the flags that I collect with my new boxes, and we will be disposing of them properly with it. I believe they do a fire after they cut the flags properly.
So there is a specific process and procedure to be more respectful, not just
Yes.
throw it in the trash, which would be very disrespectful and
Yeah.
discouraged. And these collection boxes have been around, but they don't really
Yeah,
give you a
they're-
very respectful
they are
feeling
not very
today. And what
respectful.
you're offering is to make something that looks a lot more elaborate and professional,
Yeah, presentable,
which sounds awesome to me.
fitter for the respect that we hold for the flag.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Andy?
Yeah, I'm just curious, where did you come up with this idea?
I was actually going with my family to just get rid of some stuff, and we saw the boxes, and my mom actually commented that it's not right that they should be thrown out. We even went and took a look. We saw that there was sand at the bottom, which means you're just throwing the flag directly into the sand, which doesn't seem right.
Well, the flag means a great deal to me, so I appreciate the idea. I think it's an excellent idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, I too am very thankful because I've known they've been there forever, and I appreciate that they're not just thrown away. They are taken by the VFW and Legion, I believe, both
Yes.
of them, and they're disposed of probably that way, but it's the way they're carried out until that point. Yeah, it's, so I'm very happy that you've taken on this project. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nancy
I
Murphy?
just want to say thank you, Maverick. What a great idea. You know, it's so nice to see a young person that values the flag, and thanks for noticing that, you know, we weren't doing such a great job respecting the flag there. So, you know, I think it's a wonderful idea, and thank you for coming up with it.
Thank you very much.
Nancy?
It's, you know, I didn't even know there was a place at the
I
transfer
didn't either.
station till last week, literally.
Yeah.
And I went and I noticed it, and I said, oh, well, that's a good thing to have. And then I thought to myself, it really looks kind of cheesy then. You know, and it was just very coincidental that you brought it up, and I went, oh, perfect, he must have, no, you didn't hear me because you thought of it before I did. But it's a terrific idea, and especially the 4 different places. So I appreciate you doing this, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you fill us in on some of your details of
Yes.
timing and how you're going to pay for this or things of that nature?
Yes. So my current plan, because I need to get this done before my 18th birthday in April, I have been seeking approval. Once I am approved, I will immediately begin the process of a fundraiser. I will be hosting a car wash with the help of my troop and the church at St. James. I'm going to be hosting a car wash there. We will be accepting donations for the car wash, and once I have done that car wash, I will speak with the VFW and American Legion, seeking any donations of materials that they can give me, and then come the end of the month, I will hopefully have all the materials I need. My current plan is to have the build done in October, so that I will be able to have a small flag drive before the retirement ceremony in November.
Oh, okay, so you're talking about doing it right now?
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay. Is this an extensive effort, or is this something you're going to do on your own, or?
This will be conducted primarily by myself. I will be leading my fellow scouts and my troop, and also any other of my friends, family, or acquaintances that are willing to help me throughout the build. Anybody can attend the retirement ceremony. I will get the details out and about when that comes around.
Okay, great. Any other comments or questions? We need it. Lon?
I just continue to be impressed with the scouting program, the various troops that present to us, and you've done a very, very fine job tonight, and I congratulate you.
Thank you very much.
As our ex-Counselor Bill Boyd always used to say, it's so much fun to see all these different projects come forward and listen to the presentations and kind of see the development of individuals. You know, 4 or 5 years ago, you might have had a harder time sitting here talking to us about something. I think as you age and as we all age, it's great to watch the development of people as they're going along.
Yeah,
And,
scouting is a great program.
yeah, it is. I definitely enjoyed it in my time there. But I never got so many merit badges. How are you doing? Do you have all your merit badges at this
I
point?
am working on my final 2. In fact, coming to this meeting will help me get one of them.
Oh, is that right? Okay, good government or something like that?
Because citizenship in the community.
Citizenship in the
I've
community.
always seen that as a punishment. That's what poor guys are sitting here for like an
That's
hour
why
and a
it's
half.
that's why it's at the end.
Yeah, it just lines up that way.
All right. And you need approval from us for this project?
Yes, just
Okay.
a signature.
and a signature.
Yes.
Do we need a motion?
So I would like to make a motion, but I'd like to clarify, are we only moving to approve at the transfer station? We don't approve at the American Legion or the VFW?
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I'd like to move to approve Life Scout Maverick Landry's proposal or proposed Eagle Scout service project to replace the current American flag disposal receptacles with new patriotic decorated boxes at the transfer station.
Ron
Second.
Woods? Second?
Yes.
Okay. Barbara, did you want to add something?
No, I don't, but
Okay.
I appreciate this because I've been looking at those boxes for a while thinking they needed to be brighter and more up to date. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so a motion was made by Andy and seconded by Lon Woods. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote by roll call. Nancy Murphy,
Yes.
Tom Koenig, yes. Finley,
Yes.
Nancy Harrington,
Yes.
Barbara Healy,
Yes.
Andy Hunter,
Yes.
and Lon Woods.
Would yay?
Thank you very much. So that passes 700. We thank you for your efforts and energies. Do you have something for us to sign?
I do.
or- Okay. So I think I can sign that at this point if you'd like.
Awesome.
Just somewhere down here.
It was in the Army for 3 years last time I did that. Not in the paper.
Good job.
Okay. Thank you very much, Maverick, and good luck. Have fun. What's that?
Just go sign on his car loan.
Oh, yeah. It's a good thing I left off my social security number. That brings us to a donation, a couple of donation acceptances. This one from number 2 for Spraying Systems Company for the Merrimack Police Department, submitted by Captain Kenneth McLeod. The town council to consider the acceptance and expenditure of a donation in the amount of $500 from Spraying Systems Company to the Merrimack Police Department to be used toward community programs in town pursuant to RSA 31:95-B and Charter Article 8-15. Hello,
Hello.
Captain, welcome.
Thanks for having me. And there's some new faces here, and it's the first time I've been here, so I am Kenny McLeod. I've talked to several of you before, but there's a few I don't know.
Okay, but we all have name tags, so you can at
Yep,
least
I can
know
see
who our
those,
names
yep.
are.
We got them this time. Yeah, the first one is from the spraying systems. That would be a $500 donation, and that was to be used towards any of our community-based programs.
So just to help us out, what are some of the community-based programs?
It
that
could
we-
be for the RAD class that Tom Manager McCallie just talked about.
Uh-huh.
It could be the PAC program within the school. We could use it for Coffee with a Cop. We could use it basically anything, our K-9 program. Anything where the donations are needed, we can apply the money towards that.
Okay, that's great. Anybody have any questions or thoughts? We need a motion to accept the donation. Huh?
I'm assuming you would need it.
I'd
I'd like to make a motion
Thank you.
to accept the donation of $500 from a spraying systems company to be used toward the community programs in town by the police department.
Second.
Motion made by Nancy and seconded by Andy.
I didn't know if you have to include the RSA's like we generally do. I don't know if that's necessary.
Well, as presented in our agenda.
Yeah, we don't have a say.
Do we need to make the town manager be able to accept or?
Oh,
Sign anything, yes. That would be nice
I
as a
think we-
friendly
oh.
amendment.
Friendly amendment to have the town manager be able to accept and
Sign
dispose
anything
of.
that might need to be
Sign
signed.
anything that needs signing.
yes, I agree.
And the second agrees as well.
I agree as well.
And we
Okay.
will be sending out a thank you.
Yes.
I was just going to
Absolutely.
say is, the spraying systems, have they received a plaque from us before?
They have not. There are some discussions within the town whether this is their first or second donation to the town.
Okay, so we don't know.
So we
Because
don't
usually
really
the
know
plaque is for the repetition.
repetition of it.
Yeah,
So we're trying to research that a little bit further
Right.
with it.
okay.
Thank you.
So if there's no other comments, we'll call for a roll call vote, starting with Lon Woods.
Woods, yea?
Andy Hunter,
Yes.
Barbara Healy,
Yes.
Nancy Harrington,
Yes.
Finley Rothaus,
Yes.
Tom Koenig, yes. Nancy Murphy.
Yes.
So that passes 700 with our thanks, and, et cetera. So that brings us to the next donation, which is a request to accept a donation of $5,000 from Digital Federal Credit Union, DCU, to the Merrimack Police Department to provide programs and services that make a difference in the community pursuant to RSA 31:95-B and Charter Article 8-15. Sounds a lot like the last one, only with a few words switched around.
It's the same premise.
Okay,
Use
so
the same type of
basically for the
programs.
same programs, community service programs or whatever.
Anything would benefit the community.
And just to let people know, we've been doing this like several weeks in a row. The fire department got a check for $5,000. I know the school district got a check for $5,000.
Library.
The library got a check for $5,000, and the police department's now receiving money from the DCU. So we certainly appreciate their generosity and support for the community. Any other thoughts or comments by town councilors?
I'll just second what you said. I mean, I haven't been doing this that long, and I'm just amazed at their generosity. They give a lot to this community.
Good. So we need another motion to accept and expend the $5,000.
So, I would like to make a motion to accept. I would like to make a motion to accept and expand donation in the amount of $5,000 from Digital Federal Credit Union to the Merrimack Police Department to provide programs and services that make a difference in the community pursuant to RSA 31:95-B and Charter Article 8-15.
And furthermore, to appoint,
And furthermore,
Paul McCallie
to
to
approve the town manager to
sign or,
sign any necessary documents.
and our thanks to DCU.
And our huge thank you
Huge thanks to DCU for
Federal
their
Credit
continued support of the community. Is there a second? Lon Woods?
Yeah. Woods second, and certainly agrees with Councilor Hunter's remarks.
Okay, any other comments? Barbara, did you want to add anything? I want to call you out because you're on the phone.
Yeah, no, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. We'll call for a vote. We'll start with Nancy Murphy on this one,
Yes.
and Tom Koenig, yes. Finley Rothaus?
Yes.
Nancy Harrington?
Yes.
Barbara Healy?
Yes.
Andy Hunter?
Yes.
And Lon Woods?
Woods, yea?
And that passes 700. Thank you very much. That was pretty easy, right?
Yeah, it was. Thank you for your time.
We appreciate it.
See
Thanks.
some of you on Saturday morning.
Okay,
All right.
good.
Take care.
So that brings us to Chapter 193, Updating the Welfare Guidelines, first reading, submitted by Welfare Administrator Patricia Murphy. The Town Council to consider the recommended proposed amendments to Chapter 193 Welfare Guidelines of the Merrimack Town Code pursuant to Charter Article 5. Every, I don't know, a few years or 5 years or something like that, we really have to go through and review the town code and make sure everything is up to date. And I understand Pat's been collecting things to be able to do all this because she's got quite a lot of tweaks and changes in here. And we will be, over the next probably 3 to 6 months, going through different chapters that haven't been updated very recently. It just seems like we did this whole thing not that long ago, but here we are again, kicking off with Pat, of all people. That's great.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and council members. I'd just like to introduce myself. I know we have some new members that I haven't really had a chance to meet. I'm Pat Murphy. I've been the welfare administrator. I first started with the town in 1995, and then I left for a little bit, came back in 2001 after the birth of my second child. So I've been here for a long time. I've been through a couple of these amendment changes on the welfare guidelines, and about 4 years ago, we did the regular one where we do one every 5 years. But in the past year, there have been a lot of things that have occurred And one of the things, I'll go over a little bit on why we are now doing an amendment now as opposed to waiting the extra year for the fifth one. So the amendments actually are something that the town council approves, and basically the welfare department and myself follow these guidelines, and this is why they're important. And so, yes, the last time we did the amendment was back in November 16th, 2017. Since that time, we've had new laws that were updated, added, and corrected, so I'm gonna go over those. We also need to adjust our, what we call basic need allowance expenses. There are some that are automatic that I've tied in with some credible reports and data and facts, but there are some that don't, so we have to adjust those occasionally. The other thing that really happened was that we did the new model welfare guidelines for the state of New Hampshire through our association. And so we did a revamping of the whole model welfare guidelines, and that's what prompted a lot of the small changes that you see that I'm gonna go over. And then basically modernizing and updating the guidelines to adhere to town policies that have changed over time. And also just going along with the model welfare guidelines, the clear guidance, better definitions, wording, and understanding that I think will improve the guidelines. Okay, for the new RSA law changes, the first thing that this was the major thing that I think happened was in June of 2020, the New Hampshire Public Utility Commission updated their rules. One of the rules was that what we have to, as a social service agency or any other social service, you have to pay in order to help someone to prevent their disconnects. So it was just one word, which basically, but it changed a lot in the meaning because it went from, we used to have to pay what we call a current bill to an average bill. So now we have to do that according to the Public Utility Commission. So that changed that law, and we did have to implement it right away, but I wanted to make sure it was updated in the guidelines so it would reflect that change. And
Can you tell us what's the difference?
yes.
What's the practical
The
difference?
current bill is the last 30 days usage bill, so whatever you get in your bill as the last usage, the average would be over a 12-month period and then divided by 12. So it does make a difference because, like, for example, if someone uses it for air conditioning for their electricity and their electric bill is going to be much higher in the summertime as opposed to maybe the wintertime, and vice versa. Like natural gas is going to be more expensive in the wintertime as opposed to in the summertime. So during those times, this is the average bill the Public Utility Commission felt was a more fair reflection of assistance.
Now, is that something the town will pay out, an average bill? Or is that just saying that we'll guarantee it at least that much?
We guarantee that much if someone is in a disconnect. So there is a stipulation difference between whether someone's in a disconnect and whether or not they are just eligible because they don't have enough resources, income to be able to pay their basic needs, including maybe an electric bill. And in that case, we would probably just pay their current bill as opposed to an average bill. So there's a difference. But we do want to make sure that the reflection of the change is in our guidelines.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. And a new bill that actually just came out in July 2020, which doesn't really, it never affected our guidelines, but there were some communities who were requiring residents to provide an eviction notice before they would consider them to be able to apply, which legal aid, took a real hard stand on that, and and so there was a law now, but so we're putting it in our guidelines. We never required that before for us, because according to the law, we didn't see it as such. So, but we are making sure it goes in the guidelines, so we'll always be there to make sure that people understand that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, another law that occurred actually in August of 2020 was a law that assigned a new value to what funeral directors could pull out from person's account to do funeral costs. And so the reason why this is important for us is because it's actually something that funeral directors can actually go to people's accounts as opposed to apply to local welfare when the person doesn't have any person that can pay for their burial or basic just burial or cremation. So this allows the funeral directors to be able to go over and not have to apply to local welfare. So this is something that we put in our guidelines just so that a welfare administrator would realize that they could direct the funeral director to this as opposed to having them apply to local welfare for this assistance.
Okay.
All right, and we also added this law. This law actually had nothing to do with, as you can see, the local welfare laws, but it was always something that always surprised me when I got a call. Because when the medical examiner's office had an unclaimed body, and they couldn't find anyone to sign off on the cremation and our expenses, and so under this law, they can turn the body over to the overseer of the poor, which is the old language for our local welfare. So we added this to our guidelines to give some explanation of that. So when a person who's in that position gets this, they won't be surprised.
That's your job now.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've gotten them too. I've gotten, several.
Unclaimed bodies?
Unfortunately, it's
Do
a
that mean
very
do they-
sad occurrence, quite honestly, when it does happen, to think that it does happen. But when I first got it, I was very surprised, and, they had to educate me on the law, and I was like, and then I called some of my other welfare directors this way back, and they said, oh, yeah, there's this law under their medical examiner laws. And I was like, so we decided to, under the model welfare guidelines, to add this so it would help people. Under RSA 165.31, Roman numeral 3, this was a correction that we picked up in the model welfare guidelines, that there was a law that actually states for our welfare work program that people who have the care for a child 5 years or younger are not to be assigned to welfare work program. However, for some reason, it was transferred over that also was understood for job search. So when looking at the law, we realized it was only for welfare work programs. So we made the recommendation on our model welfare guidelines to adjust it down to 1 year for job search. So that meant for a person who's taking care of a child, if they have a child under 1, they don't have to do job search under 1, but if they're older than 1, they do need to do job search. So this is just making the correction in our guidelines from 5 to 1 years old. And then this was also a correction in RSA 165.20. For some reason, the word shall was there, and it actually should have been may, according to the RSA. So we're just making that correction, and this pertains to when someone is applying and they came from another community, we have to seek out reimbursement. We may request that reimbursement from other communities. In some cases, it doesn't make sense, but before the wording shall was there, so there was just a correction of that because the RSA actually is may. Okay. All right. And then for the allowable expenses, just to give you some sort of background, in 1982, a municipality case, or court case, that a municipality will be subject to liability if it keeps its guidelines, amounts for basic needs artificially low. And this is something that some communities have done, and this is sometimes a problem, and this is why if we don't adjust them and things, it can get artificially low. And the reason why this is important is because this is how eligibility is determined. So we have allowances for what is the cap for rents that are tied into fair market rents that update every year. We have allowances for food that are tied into food stamps amounts that are updated every year. We have electric is based on current usages, and so things do change. Telephone allowance is an allowance that will change. So there are some things that we can tie into changes that we don't have to come back to you every year and update. So these are, but there are some things that we do have to do. And so what I'm recommending is, one of the things is updating the vehicle payment allowance from reasonable to a maximum of $350 a month. And the reason I'm recommending this is that we have always allowed the expense of one vehicle per household. However, people will come in and sometimes they have vehicles and they're just paying too much, and so, there gets to a point where, people need to go back and readjust their vehicle loans or things like that, because it's just, they have too high of a payment. But reasonable has always been like an arbitrary thing, and so therefore, $350 is really what is usually what I see as the most average and common denominator for that. So I thought it would be better to put in the actual $350 as opposed, up to $350 as opposed to reasonable.
So that number seems a little arbitrary to me, but you're saying that's
It
what
is.
you normally end up having to reimburse if you reimburse
We
for
don't
vehicle, or-
reimburse, okay? There are differences between what we pay out in assistance and what we allow as expenses, meaning what people can use their income and resources to pay for. We don't pay car payments. We can allow for them to have that car payment toward their basic needs. And we also allow a gasoline allowance. So there are certain things that go along because we don't have public transportation in Merrimack. And then the other thing is the maintenance allowance. This is for non-food items, so for like toilet paper, paper towels, shampoo, cleaning products, things like that. So this is an amount that we never really have a place to tie it in, but what I try to do is try to give like a tabulation of what some of these costs may be and try to make sure we updated at this point. We haven't updated this since 2010, so it's been a long time, but with inflation and everything like that, it really needs to be updated. So that's why I'm recommending these adjustments, which is about 21% when I did the calculations.
And again, these are numbers that you vetted and feel are reasonable.
Right, and what I'm, basically what I'm seeing, and also what is reasonable in terms of what people, when occasionally I'll have someone, like, for example, who'll come in and they have like 2 kids in diapers, okay, that allowance is not gonna hit it for that. So, and that would be a special circumstance where I would actually get receipts for, okay, just bring me the receipts of what you're actually paying for diapers and we'll give you the extra allowance for something like that. So these are, sometimes I have to do things above and beyond, what the normal things are. So if someone gave me some concerns or things like that, I would have to listen to those concerns and try to vet them out. But as far as trying to come up with figures, this is what I have come up with that I think will cover it, hopefully.
And keep you out of the artificially low category at the same time.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, and to show that we're updating it.
Right.
And this is, this updating the disbursement of assistance and other forms of payments. At one point, there was a law that says that we have to use vouchers to provide payment to our vendors. And the whole reasoning in if you look at the law, it actually just so that we're not paying clients. So the vouchers are used for that purpose. But it never says that's the only way that we have to provide assistance. Sometimes I do have to provide assistance in other ways of payment. Like, for example, if I have to, if someone has to have what we call a return ticket home, and they're stuck in Merrimack, and, I'm gonna have to pay for their bus ride back, I can't do that with a voucher, so I have to use like a town credit card for that. If I have to pay for an emergency motel stay because we don't have any shelters available, there are motels that won't take vouchers. So there are times that I have to use other types of payments. And so this is something that we do with the finance policies and do this. So I just wanted to update that so it's more accurate on what we're using. The updating the check payment requirements for tax identification requirements. This is something that we have always done, but it was never really clear in our guidelines that we do need to get this tax identification number. It's mostly from landlords, so that if they go over the $600, I think it's the $600, right? We have to issue them 1099? Yeah, 1099. So the thing is, we have to have that tax identification number. So this is just really adding into the guidelines, this policy that we've always done. And updating housing and shelter definitions to match eviction laws. There's a lot of confusion in terms of all the different types of housing and things that can happen. So we updated this to try to make it clearer. So the different definitions for emergency shelter versus transitional housing, tenancy and non-tenancy, because there are circumstances when people have evictions that are different based on the law of evictions. So if someone's in a rooming house, for example, that's a different set of laws, and that's considered a non-tenancy type place. So these definitions are just to try to make these more understandable so that it's consistent with the law of the evictions. So this is what all those sort of definitions have been updated to. And standard of need updated with, so the standard of need is really where we take these definitions and apply them. So basically in the section for standard of need, there's guidance on these different types of housing, and so that's, in those pages were updated for that reason. Adding more guidance to the guidelines. One of the things that was recommended when we did the model welfare guidelines for the state is that we changed working days to business days. So there's a lot of times that we have to have a timeliness in our decision-making, and fair hearings and things of that nature have some time elements in them. So this is just changing working days language to business day, because it just reflects more the idea that it doesn't incorporate weekend or holidays. So we just thought this was a better definition of that. And so these are just all incorporated on those pages, those that are reflected there. The case retention records, this was updated just to better reflect and so that people understand what our requirements are under the law, and also because we follow what Merrimack Town retention laws, policies are, which, but the state has a minimum of welfare records of 7 years, so that's the minimum, but we can hold them longer depending on our guidelines, but we do 7 years also, but it's in there. And then we updated some of the processes for interviewing, reviewing application, and making decisions. And this really became the result of, because of the pandemic and realizing how we had to be flexible and how to handle things differently. So, we never did, just total telephone interviews, reviewing applications with people by way of having them submit it by electronic means, and also providing notice of decisions by electronic means. So these are all things that we had to realize that we had to have some flexibility in order to be able to do these things. And so this is reflected on these pages here on that. And also updated in the guidelines is under pending and emergency decisions. And this is just giving clearer guidance to how these decisions are implemented. So, and this is something, I've always done, but actually having it in writing is a little bit clearer for people. And just the addition of the original RSA that actually requires municipalities to do local welfare under RSA 165. For some reason, the wording relieved and maintained were not included in the definition there, which can be really something that is useful for people to understand, because relieved is basically meaning that if someone is eligible, we assist them. Maintained is that someone may be able to continue to get assistance as long as they maintain eligibility, do all the requirements that they're supposed to do, and things like that. So this is just adding that extra wording so that people will understand the responsibilities under that law. And language updates for clearer understanding and interpretation. Just a little thing, hearing area instead of listening area. Just a simple thing, but.
Just in the vernacular of English, it
Yeah,
just
I
helps
guess
to
so.
make it clearer.
It made more sense to people, I guess. Modernization of documentation, we added just the addition of getting debit card accounts, because a lot of people thought, that debit cards weren't bank accounts, which usually they are reflective of, backed up with a bank, but a lot of people don't think that. So a lot of times we have to remind people that, debit card account is considered a resource account that they have to provide documentation for. And also an explanation of what an adult student is. Under local welfare, we don't provide assistance if they're over 18 and they're not in secondary school. So this just but they could be 18 and still be in school. But this is just explaining 18 or over. So as part of the criteria and understanding what an adult student is. So under the guidelines, we do not provide assistance to someone who's out of secondary school unless they can maintain working at the same time as going to school. So this is it was just a little wording thing. Also, there was on page 29 just an explanation for net income, for self-employment when we do the calculation for people who are self-employed. And then just the update of the actual name of fuel assistance, which actually is LIHEAP, which is the Low-Income Heating and Energy Assistance Program. So just so we have that all accurate.
Oh, okay.
All right, and that's basically the summary of all the changes. I did send you all the red line edits, so you can see all the minor changes and things in there. So if you have particular questions about any particular one, I'd be happy to go over it and answer it for you.
Paul?
Just want to let the council know that these have been vetted by legal counsel, and not just these changes alone, but the whole welfare section of our ordinance. And he was very impressed with the amount of detail in our welfare ordinance. So, but they've all been vetted, they've all comply with state laws and state RSAs, so. Just so council
Yeah,
has
he
that.
offered some really,
And the
couple of
town
suggestions.
financial department too? The town's, because there was some discussion about with town policies and changing
Yeah.
of some of the policies. I just want to make sure the finance department is fine with all the changes as well,
Yeah, it's what we were doing
anyway.
anyways,
So it's
because
just
we had to go to credit,
documenting.
we had to go to credit cards for the hotels.
Anyway.
They weren't taking vouchers anymore, they wanted their money up front. And so we weren't taking vouchers, so, and then the 1099 thing is, whether they wanted to do it or not, it's RSA regulation, we had to do it.
So a lot of it's just updating what you've already been doing and clarifying and housekeeping.
Right, and making it clearer so that there's no, so it basically becomes a teaching guide, too, in that, someone can pick this up and say, okay, this is how we do local welfare. So it is a guidelines of all, of everything that we're trying to make sure is understandable.
Any other questions? As you were going through it, it almost sounded like you were preparing to move on, and I hope that's not imminent at this stage. But it's nice to have a very clear definition of what's required
trying
or
to tell
what's
us something?
expected.
No, I'm still here, Yes, but.
So that is a lot of tedious work to go through, and I know
But it is important that it be,
is.
a document that
It is.
someone can come in and actually look over and know how to do it, and that's, important.
Right. Very good. So this is a first reading, is that right,
So it's just,
of these
the
changes?
motion
So
would be to move it to a second reading?
to a public hearing,
Public hearing.
which would
Okay.
be the second reading, yes.
Then I'll make that motion.
Motion by Nancy.
Motion
Harrington.
to accept and move to the public hearing the proposed amendments as presented to Chapter 193 Welfare Guidelines of the Merrimack Town Code pursuant to Charter Article Roman numeral 5.
Okay, motion by Nancy, seconded by Lon. Any other discussion or questions? It looks like you've done a lot of work here, and we really
Yeah, it sure
appreciate the
has.
tediousness of it. And I know working with the planning board in the
Necessary.
past and the community, and the site plan regulations and stuff, it can get really carried away trying to keep up with all the changes in the RSAs, and even the numbers alone can get difficult to deal with. So thank you very much for that.
welcome.
Without any other comment, we'll go for a roll call vote. Starting with Nancy Murphy,
Yes.
Tom Koenig, yes. Finley,
Yes. Yes.
Nancy Harrington.
Yes.
Barbara Healy,
Yes.
she's still awake. Andy Hunter
Yes.
and Lon Woods.
Would you?
Okay, so that passes 7-0-0 to, pardon? Lon Woods did. So it was made by Nancy and seconded by Lon Woods, Nancy Harrington, seconded by Lon Woods, to move it to a public hearing, which I presume will be the 23rd, not our next meeting. Well, it is our next meeting.
We should have enough time to get it in the paper, so
Okay.
it's 7 clear days.
All right, great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
So when the time comes and goes, you can hear all the other departments saying, oh, we have to review and revise. You can say, I'm all done.
That's right. Well, thanks for leading off for us. Is this a pass out?
Yeah.
Okay. Our next agenda item is the American, is that where we are?
Yeah.
5, yeah. American Rescue Plan Act funds for private well owners discussion. It was submitted by Town Councilor Nancy Murphy to discuss and propose consideration to use American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 funds for private well owners. Nancy, you want to jump in on that, or?
Yes, thank you. We talked a while ago about the potential of looking at some options for funding private well contaminated wells that are contaminated here in Merrimack. And we all know that back in 2016, that's when we first found out all of our public drinking water was contaminated. But additionally, many private wells are too. And you know, we've worked hard with the MVD to put forth warrant articles to address filtration of wells, to make our drinking water safer. And the problem that we've heard often, that people have come before us, and is that private well owners have been pretty much left out of any recourse or any help, because DES does not have any legislative or rulemaking authority over private wells. So basically, our Merrimack residents whose private wells are contaminated have been on their own and left to their own devices to fund filtration for their homes, and they don't have access to the public water that the rest of us could choose to drink if we wanted to. So, you know, I've been really concerned about that, and you know, when I was in the legislature, much of my work was around prioritizing the safe drinking water and everything for our community. So this was sort of the natural next step. I don't have a private well, but I've talked to enough people that do, and I've heard the frustration. So I reached out to a number of people at DES and to try to figure out options, you know, what was available. And a few weeks ago, we had talked about the American Rescue Plan, and I was given some information that we would probably meet eligibility requirements for that, but I think there's some questions. So I didn't really research that much further, but two other options came up, and one I think we mentioned as well, that the town of Londonderry has taken advantage of, and there's a little thing at the back, I think, of your no, maybe not back. The town of Londonderry has a PFAS task force that the town council created, and what they did was they received a $500,000 grant to provide $500 rebates to impacted well owners there, and they have a lot more private wells than we do. So, you know, that's an expense, but that was the act that they took, and that was through the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund. It's a special project assistance program, which this is certainly something that we could apply to and would likely meet all the requirements. The problem with this, I see, is that there are a number of steps, and the time frames, and you know, once you go through the process, then it has to go to executive council, and then it goes to the governor, and it's a lot of just a lot.
And is that what Londonderry did?
That's what Londonderry has done.
Okay.
But Londonderry did that because what I'm going to talk to you about next, which is what I think is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunity for Merrimack, wasn't available to them. I spoke with a number of people at DES, but the two primary ones that I'll mention are Erin Holmes, who is the Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund Administrator, and Amy Russo, who is the PFAS Response Administrator. She's also the PFAS Remediation Loan Fund Administrator. And that's what I want to talk to. That's what I see as the best opportunity for the Merrimack Town Council to maybe take action on, so that we can advocate for our residents. I provided inside the little packet that I've provided. I know people at home can't see it, but you know, it basically says, it describes the the PFAS AGQS, the ambient groundwater quality standards, are the same as the MCLs. And the MCLs, the maximum contaminant levels that we're talking about, are for only 4 of the PFAS that are regulated by the state of New Hampshire. So even though we know there are probably 9,000, we're only talking about we can only regulate 4 here because that's what all we're able to do by law. So when I talk about PFAS exceedances, it's just those 4, because those are the only 4 that matter in terms of New Hampshire law as is current. DES, and they, this is one issue, and I think this might be one of those legislative ideas, is really has a challenge. They feel the frustration of our private well owners because basically DES can't do anything to help private well owners, which seems like that really wouldn't be able to make sense, other than maybe hook them up and suggest where they could go for testing and that kind of stuff. But they have no legislative or rule authority and thus no funding. So that's why they're sort of out of the business of private wells, which might be something to look at, I'm thinking, for our legislators. Because even DES said, had they had legislative authority to do so, that this would have made some of this easier around the private well issue. So anyway, we have in Merrimack, we know there's that, the consent decree. And the consent decree was that agreement that was made between St. Gobain and DES as to what St. Gobain would be responsible for. And so there's a red circle you will see on the maps, and that's the pre-GMZ, and then there's the blue, which is the outer line. And so and then you see on the maps all the little dots of houses inside it. That's the outer boundary. All of those, the homes within both the red and the blue line. So the blue outer line is really the one we'll talk about. All of those houses inside that blue outer line, which is the consent decree area, St. Gobain is responsible for providing alternate water initiatives should those, their homes test above those 4 PFAS MCLs or AGQS. So St. Gobain is responsible for people inside the consent decree area. And so the issue and the people that have sort of got left out of the loop here are all of the homeowners outside of that blue line. And some of them are just next door to somebody who was inside. And that's left, I know people have been fielding calls about, like, how does it work that I'm not in the consent decree area and I live next door a couple of houses away. So this is the group that I'm talking about, is the contaminated wells outside of the consent decree area. And there's a gentleman at DES who works with Amy. His name is Derek. And he queried all the data today to give me the most up-to-date numbers. As of today, we have 558 unique groundwater sampling locations in the town of Merrimack. 240 of those are outside that consent decree area. And of those 240, 75 have exceeded 1 or more of the 4 AGQS. So that's the group that we're talking about, that they meet the requirements, their wells are contaminated, and they don't have access to alternative water sources. So all of these, those homeowners would be eligible for this program that I'm talking about. A while ago, right now, we just passed a piece of legislation. It was House Bill 271. It was Representative Rung and her co-sponsor, Representative Joyce Weston. And this is the bill that actually has made this possible. When I spoke with Amy today, and she said, this is really what's changed things in the law and allowed us to access these grants. So it's HB 271 is a piece of legislation that began actually back in 2020. I wrote HB 1537, which it's based on, and then Rosemarie brought the bill back. And thankfully, with a lot of work and her co-sponsor and a lot of support from all of the people that recognize the value, it passed. It's been signed into law by the governor, and what it's done is it's updated the RSA 485, which is the New Hampshire Safe Drinking Water Act. the PFAS remedial loan fund is part of this act, and that's the funding source for what I'm gonna talk about. It's sort of, the name is a little confusing because it says loan fund, and I wasn't interested in looking at loans, just grants. Grant money has recently been added to this loan fund. It's in the process of being available for use under this remedial loan fund. I see this as providing our Merrimack homeowners who live outside that consent decree and who's had this well exceedance, finally having some feeling like their issues are being addressed. So Amy said she sees, who's more familiar with our situation than DES. She said, yeah, I see no red flags. She said, I'm so glad you talked to me because I'm going to put you on the list. And I'm glad you're giving me the heads up that you might be interested. Because this is one of those things that she said, had Londonderry been aware, had this been available, Londonderry probably would have jumped on this. And she said, it will be a first come, first served basis, because obviously the money will run out. The best part of this, and I was really excited, was that homeowners, the alternative water source that we could hook these homeowners up to can be either a point of entry treatment or connection to a public water system. The goal and one of the requirements of this grant is that it's supposed to be the most cost effective. But Amy said that does not mean the least expensive, because she said sometimes we're penny wise and pound foolish. She said some homes may be located where they're not easily accessible to a direct public water source, so that might make more sense for them to have the portable. So she said either a town could say, okay, we're going to hook everybody up we want everybody to be hooked up to public water, or we want point of entry for everybody. Or you could say, depending upon the situation, it's a mixed bag. Some houses will get this, some houses will get that. And I said, well, how do you make that decision? How would a town make that decision? She said, one of the things that I found is phenomenal is, she said, your town is eligible for a consolidation study, which would not cost the town. DES would pay for it, a grant. Merrimack could hire an engineer to do a cost study or analysis to determine whether the town should request connections to public water, point of entry, or a combination of both, a mixed bag, based upon the needs of people or locations of access to public water. It merely requires filling out an application, which is in the packet here, asking for a quote and the scope of work from an engineer. She said you can pick your own engineer. If the town uses somebody they're comfortable with, use them. Otherwise, there's a list also I provided in there of engineers. She said all you have to do is submit it, and then DES will pay for the bill once they've approved the admission. So we don't have to pay to have that done. And she said, and it would be covered for a grant, so there would be no charge to the town for that. They would come back, and she said the thing that she would recommend would be to make sure that we had a time frame that we could expect those results back. She said, like, maybe no more than 4 weeks, because she said, given when this money's gonna come in, and she doesn't know how many people are gonna be looking for it, we don't wanna prolong the application process. So she suggested, maybe giving them a month or something if the town was interested in doing that. The eligibility requirements I've listed in the packet. The town is eligible to apply for this on behalf of the residents. The residents are basically going to, be the ones whose wells are going to be approved, but they can't access these funds on their own, so it would have to be from a municipality. And she said the town would do that. The wells must have exceedances, and she said we already know they do because we did the testing. The grants will cover the expenses retroactive to September 30th, 2019. So if if a family already put in a point of entry, that they could submit a retroactive bill that would be paid through this grant, which would not be us having to pay. So September 30th, 2019, ongoing is eligible for payment. Applicant must show effort to find liable party. She said, I don't think that's an issue. I think we already know. And if the applicant is shown to be the liable party, documentation must be presented. And so she said, we actually have another town that they contaminated. It was a fire department. And she said, all they did was she goes, literally the site number. We already know what they did. And she said, they're still eligible, certainly for the grant. And it's they're looking, of course, for the most cost-effective option. And she said that does not necessarily mean the least expensive. So basically what we'd be looking at is submitting an application for a consolidation study and a grant application, and based on what we're seeking, what we're interested in. The grants approved do not resolve the polluter of responsibility, and any grant money recovery later she said, it's the onus of the state. The town has nothing to do with it. The town does not have to worry about it. She suggested that if the town is interested, and she said, I can't imagine why they wouldn't be, it's important to come in high in terms of the funding that we're seeking. She said, so that we don't underbill, and even write into the application a possible 20% overage for those homes that have not yet been tested. We may have other homes that, in the interim, we'll find out are exceeding the AGQS. She said, it's better to have more money available. She said, because you're only going to get what you need anyway. We're not going to disperse it if you don't need it. And she said also, if the town is interested in accessing the point of entry treatment systems, she's looking into it. She's pretty sure we would have the ability to use the state contracted vendor, which is Advanced Radon Mitigation. So I've put her contact information in there, House Bill 271, and on the third page of that is Section 4, PFAS Loan Fund. It describes the establishment of this fund and its use, and so we know where this money's coming from. There's an email from her confirming what I've said. She's also said that Derek the data person there, would provide us with a map, print out a map of actually where they're at, where the current status of all of those, the wells are, and the addresses. I said, because we don't necessarily, there's a lot of dots on the paper. So she said, once if you want to go forward with that, that would be something that they could do. So, it's 100% reimbursement for all of these things. There is no cost to the town. There is no cost to the homeowners. And so, I'm excited and hopeful that this is something that we've been looking for a long time, and it would meet the needs of a lot of people in this town that may not have the resource to do, and really shouldn't be responsible. It should be certainly liability of the polluter. But that's, she said, until that happens, at least this will help those people to move forward, and people would have safe drinking water. So, I know it's a lot of paperwork, and I thought that we'd just be looking at the American Rescue Plan funds, but it certainly seems to me, even though the New Hampshire Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund special projects application, the loan grant application would also provide this. I think that's up to $500,000, and it just seems a lot more complicated to me and a little less sure than this one. So I was hoping that, I'm not sure if people are comfortable moving forward on it, and if so, I'd want to bring motions, and if not, I'd ask that we address it maybe at our next meeting, just so there's time to access the consolidation study, if there's going to be a decision to do that, and so we don't miss out on an opportunity that I think other towns, when they realize. As a matter of fact, the applications I printed out to you, they're not even public yet. They're So, other people don't know they exist. So I just see it as a wonderful opportunity, and I hope that, that would be something that the town could consider, taking a step in advocating for residents who have sort of been, screaming into the wind for 5 years. So, that's it.
Okay. Anybody have any, Nancy?
I can't make a decision now. I think what I think it sounds wonderful, and that's what makes me suspect. When things sound too good, they usually are. So I'm hoping that exactly what you're thinking and you're projecting is exactly what is. But I have to remember that who's going to be administrating this? Paul? And I think he needs to, have you seen the paperwork, or whoever? Have you seen the paperwork yet? Okay.
No,
I
nothing.
think they need time to be able to read it, have an appreciation of what it would involve, be able to speak to Amy
Agreed. Yep.
and Derek or whoever it is, to be able to get information so that they have a certain comfort level of the information they would need, and then come back at some near date and let us know, what do you think? I have monitored grants. They're not easy. Even the reasonable ones are not. It takes a lot of work. So I want to be able to hear what their feelings are in terms of, is it too good to be true? Is it reality? Have you spoken with Amy, and this is exactly, and timelines and all that stuff. So, I don't feel like I'm in a position, which I've spoken to you about before, to be able to make a decision tonight, but I'm certainly open to it, but I want to provide the opportunity to be looked at more closely for reconsideration. So that's how I feel.
I think it's completely reasonable. Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, I agree with Nancy. The part that we got in our packets was about the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act funds, and I don't think that's what Councilor Murphy was talking about. So I would like to see more background information on what is being proposed, as well as have staff have that opportunity to look at it as well. So I agree with Councilor Harrington.
Barbara, just to bring you up to date, Nancy did pass out a fairly thick packet of data.
Yeah, but we
that-
didn't have time to read it, though, right?
No, we haven't read it, and you probably don't have it, so.
You're right, exactly.
There is backup information now, but we certainly haven't
Yep.
had a chance to go through it. You covered a lot of things, Nancy, starting with your consolidation study, which I wasn't sure I caught, what all that involved and how much, what it involves, I guess. And then you said some things about full coverage or full reimbursement versus Londonderry was giving people $500, and those systems probably cost $5,000. So there's a big range there in financial impact.
Right. Amy, because I asked her, I don't myself don't have a point of entry, and she said those average around 3,000 to 4,000. She said, but if the town was interested, I would say bill for 5,000. And that's there's another town, I think it's Wyndham, that they just put you're going to put 18 of those in for 18 homes in Wyndham. I guess it was a firefighting foam exposure there. It was different than here. But the consolidated study is the engineering study, and she said that would just absolve you of trying to figure out whether point of entry makes the most sense, hooking up to public water makes sense. They would look at the MBD, all of the stuff, all of the access, whether that's realistic to expect a public water system to go into a place that may be or they would say, we recommend no, that house get a point of entry. So we would be taking our cues, if we were interested in doing that, from that study, the cost-benefit study, that, again, would be grant-funded. So, and she said you can use your own engineer, and if we don't have one, the town didn't have one that they wanted to use, there's a list in there of the ones that the state uses. So, I totally agree with what Nancy and Barbara said. I certainly think we need to to have all of you, look into it and speak with Amy, but, and I too, like when she was telling me, I said, I agree, it sounds too good to be true. And I think part of that is we're just getting in at the right time, I mean, I know when the MVD got some drinking water, groundwater trust fund money, we got in at the right time with that too. And that's sometimes just the way it is. And this bill just happened to pass, and the funding came in from ARP and some revenue funds for the state, and so that's, sort of available. So it's a timely thing, and Amy is the administrator herself, because I said, so who makes this decision? She goes, I do. And I said, do you do this by yourself? And she said, I've appointed a small group of people with me, but she said, Nancy, I'm telling you, she said, I already know your situation. It's not like you're submitting something to us that we don't know. We already have all the information. And she said, I don't see a single red flag. I don't think this would be a problem. And, should the town decide to do that? But, I think it'd be great if Paul and everybody could talk to Amy, and she could certainly provide whatever, information or.
You can tell tell us if it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
It's a free lunch. I'd be more than happy to bring this back to the council on the 23rd of September.
Perfect.
I have some, looking at the data, questions. I have questions too that,
Perfect.
The guidelines, because that's the most important thing. If we're going to apply for this grant, what are the guidelines? Because we have homes in Merrimack that are non-detect, and they want to get reimbursed for their well, and according to this, it's not there.
Right.
But, there's some we definitely need
That's
to
great.
have
That's what you need to look
guidelines before we think about moving the next step. And I'll see if it's what it is, and talk to Amy about that, and up to DES about some of these things.
And a
see
lot
where
of
we stand.
times when we get grants, there's always strings attached
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
down
big
the
strings.
road.
Mhm.
And you don't realize it because you're so enthralled with the money you're gonna get that you don't look at or you don't weigh the consequences of the strings. So that always has to be considered too, and looked for.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I guess part of the consolidation study or engineering study would be to look at the ongoing cost of maintaining point of entry systems. I mean,
That's one of my questions. Who
that can be
pays
really
for-
significant, and that's one of the big things MVD is looking at with their filters they're putting on 4 and 5 and apparently some legislation or something has changed, or DES has changed to be looking back to Saint-Gobain for some help there. So at this point, it looks like we're talking about something to affect 75 people, not 558 unique groundwater sampling sites, or.
Correct. It's just the homes outside that consent decree area that have exceeded one or more of the 4 PFAS, AGQS. So, yeah, so the example Paul gave, that would not be somebody that would be, it's just, as of right now, it's 75 homes. There are other homes in Merrimack scheduled to be tested, and so it could be, I would expect that there will be more than 75. But 75 is the number as of today.
Okay. Yeah. Any other thoughts or comments from the council at this point? Lon?
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to formulate the question correctly, but I'm going to try. When you talk about a consolidation study, and I've heard you mention the MVD, would they be involved in gathering information, or would they even be interested?
I don't know.
Okay, because there are, my experience is there are reasons why, like expanding a water system to areas that may need that kind of help. It sounds really good, but it's almost impossible given ledge and cost of construction
Terrain,
and
yeah.
recovery of costs and all of that stuff. And the attempt to discover who the polluters are, I don't know whether that would be important to a consolidation study or not. But when you get to outside of, I don't know, green, red, yellow zone, whatever zone, I've seen lists of, you know, dozens, if not in the 50s, of potential contributors to PFAs or the four or more compounds. So I'm not sure what we're really asking of ourselves.
Okay, if I understand it though, is what the causative factors are irrelevant.
Correct. That doesn't matter who the
Which
polluter
is-
is.
But however, it's a good
Yeah,
question
well,
to verify that.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right.
I asked that question. I
Well,
said.
you need to verify
d-
it.
Does,
You're right.
does the polluter have to be
Okay,
identified?
I'll accept that general
If it were
gestalt
true.
in terms of thinking about it. But we're also, or I have the concern this evening, as you, the first I've seen, and I'm a quick reader, but I'm not a quick
Yeah, you have to see it in.
digester of things. I'm not sure whether all the town residents are interested in us messing around with their property. And their private well is their private property. I'll leave it at that for now.
And I mean, I think this is a resource for them. If a private well owner doesn't want anything done, they don't have to have anything done. This is just, I think there are plenty of private well owners that would like some access to safe drinking water. Should they choose not to participate, that's certainly a choice they can make. And I did ask that question. Did it matter, did there have to be, you know, did we have to know that a particular well was associated with St. Gobain contamination? She said, no, it could be a Merrimack landfill, it could be 40 other people, or an unknown polluter. It doesn't matter. It just, all you have to, the eligibility is based on the exceedance of the MCLs, not who the polluter is.
Interesting. For this grant, I'd be very careful of who we put down as the polluter, if it's us.
Let's see.
Because I have a feeling they're gonna wanna come after the polluters eventually. So we need to definitely
Take a look at it.
take a look at all the information in this grant. And it is a very good idea, because we do have people that are literally, the way the map was drawn, with the blue line, red line, that, you know, it's taking them out, and they have tested high, and they have come to town hall asking what we could do, and we try to put them in contact with the people in the state, because, you know, it's, they understand more than us, when it comes to how the lines were drawn.
Yeah.
So I think, I do not have a problem coming back in 2 weeks. Let me get some information, let me do some research on this if the council so wants, and bring it back for the 23rd. I really don't think the 2-week delay will be that much, because I'm hoping they do have guidelines, or they're gonna be writing their guidelines, so we can at least have those as well.
And I think, Lon, I think your point's well taken. Once all of us have time to let this absorb, we may have questions too. And certainly we can call you, Paul, with that.
Right. And I ask you to do that, or send me an email on it, so that I can get those answered in advance, because
Okay, and just to cover your other couple of options here, the American Rescue Plan funding, according to our attorneys, is not really available for us to support individual private well owners. It would be useful for commercial or municipal water and sewer systems, as we've already discussed doing. That kind of takes that one off the table, at least for now. And then the New Hampshire Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund, yeah, it's a grant and requires a certain amount of things. And then the amount of funding there that we could get is highly debatable as far as helping up to 75 people. $500 is $500, but it's not gonna,
500,000, we're eligible.
well, I know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
per person
Each.
in Londonderry, you
Yeah.
get 500.
Right.
So whether that really helps anybody or not for the amount of trouble is debatable. But anyway, so we'll, I guess, table this till the next meeting to further discuss.
Yes, yes.
We'll officially table it to that meeting, to a date certain, and then you can deal with it at that point.
If you're gonna do that to a date certain, I would recommend we do official motion to table. Date
Okay.
certain.
So we're looking for a motion to table this discussion on the PFAS funding for
So moved.
private wells to the meeting of September 23rd.
Second.
Motion made by Andy Hunter and seconded by Finley Rothaus. Does anybody have motions to table? They're supposedly non-debatable, but, so we'll call for a vote on that by roll call, starting with Lon
Wood, yay.
and Andy
Yes.
and Barbara
Yes.
and Nancy Harrington,
Yes.
Finley Rothaus.
Yes.
Tom Koenig, yes. Nancy Murphy.
Yes.
Okay, so that passes 7-0 to table to the 23rd. Which rapidly brings us towards the end of our meeting here. Minutes, we have minutes from the following town council meeting, August 19th of 2021. Barbara, this is where we're hoping you'll jump in.
What's that? I'm sorry.
We're hoping you'll jump in on the minutes here, maybe.
No, I'm abstaining.
No.
Oh, that's right. 'cause
Oh,
she
you were
wa-
excused.
She
Good
was,
grief.
she was tripping.
Well, I was hoping. But anyway. Lon?
I'd like to move to accept the minutes as approved, or has that
As
already been
printed.
done?
No, that's a good
right.
motion to make.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Lon and seconded by Nancy. Does anybody have any changes, corrections, additions, or
It was a pretty
deletions?
short meeting, actually.
Lon said as printed, so he doesn't have any. I didn't see anything
I didn't-
when I
pretty
very
short, too.
briefly looked through it. If there are no changes, we'll vote to approve the minutes as presented. By roll call, Lon,
Wood, yay.
Andy,
Yes.
Barbara,
Abstain?
abstain, thank you. Nancy Harrington,
Yes.
Finley Rothaus,
Yes.
Tom Koenig, yes. Nancy Murphy.
Yes.
Okay, so that passes 6-0-1 with Barbara Healy abstaining. Which brings us to our comments from the press. They're not here. Comments from the public? Comments from the council? Anybody in the council wishing to make any comments at this time? Barbara?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
I did forget to mention one thing, and I'm sorry to bring it up in this section, but just for the amending my town manager's report a little bit. Remember the Tears Foundation that came in front of us, and we approved the Angels Monument
Oh,
to be at
yes.
Watson Park? That is moving forward, and you will see, that when you go to, on the 11th, the Saturday, you'll see where we're thinking about putting it. There will be some dig-safe materials that we looked at for that. That is moving ahead September 25th. That is supposed to be the unveiling date. So over the next week, they're gonna be putting it in, and then the 25th, they'll be unveiling it.
And where? At Abbey Griffin?
Abbey Griffin, yes.
Okay, I thought you
Where-
said at Watson Park.
I'm sorry if I did.
Or maybe I just misheard.
You misheard it.
I misheard.
It's late, it's 9:30, so it's been a long day.
Nicely early. Okay.
It's actually
But-
very early.
For some of us, it's late. So, but I just want to let the council know that that is moving forward in that project, and they have been very gracious and have been thanking the town council profusely of letting them put it here, and what a great opportunity it is. So,
It's a great place for it.
yes,
It really is.
right.
Okay. Any other comments from the council?
Now, hopefully, we'll see a lot of people on Saturday morning. Let's all remember.
Yeah, yes, Saturday morning at 8:30, be there a little bit early, especially if you're gonna read the declaration, just so we can know that people are there. We have the declaration signed. We ought to get that posted in town hall or something.
We will.
Okay.
Once we get Barbara's signature on it, we'll definitely get it framed and put up.
Okay.
In the entryway.
All right, good. And as, obviously, we're at the end of our, well, we're past the end of our summer break. It's already September. So we're back to our twice a month schedule for council
Now,
meetings.
this is when Andy and Nancy really know what it's like.
Well, as we get into the budget season
Let's
and all
see,
that
budget
stuff.
season, like December, January.
CIP's coming soon, October.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good.
There's something vicious about the big
And I will not be here for the meeting on the 23rd, which I'm sure you're all cheering inside about, but thanks. Finley will guide you with aplomb and decorum and all that good stuff. So if there's no other comments,
Motion to adjourn.
a motion to adjourn by Nancy Harrington, seconded by Andy Hunter. All those by roll call, Lon Woods,
Woods, yay.
Andy Hunter,
Yes.
Barbara Healy,
Yes.
Nancy Harrington,
Yes.
Finley Rothaus,
Yes.
Tom Koenig, yes, Nancy Murphy.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.